week. So what are we looking at today? I wanted to talk a little bit about the people form. I know we tend to go to it and we just fill out what we have to fill out to get people onboarded, or we're using the data management spreadsheets to bring people in. But I wanted to walk through some of the other tabs just to show you information you could track or things you could be looking at if you chose to. So we're just going to do a walk through those. We're also going to talk a little bit about the generic catalog. You've seen it in your foundation data list. Maybe you've hit it, maybe you haven't. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is, where it came from. We don't really use it anymore, but I just want to make sure you know it's in there and what it applies to. And then a totally different topic, other than catalog, talk about the after-hours support form. There is an after-hours support form. I've worked with customers who didn't quite understand what it was for. So I wanted to walk through what it's for, what you can do with it, and see if that's something that's going to be of use to you or not. So let me go ahead and share my desktop. And let me go ahead and bring this. I'm doing good on my mouse clicks today. I just failed mouse clicks. So the other tabs on the people form. Let's go ahead and talk about those. So I'm logged into my system. I'm on my people form, and I'm on Alan Albrook's record. We all have seen anybody do demos from BMC or RightStar. You've seen us use Alan as our main person. So I was going to use him as our guinea pig today. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is on this attributes tab. There are a set of attributes you can keep, and some of these you can do for other people. Some of them they need to do for themselves. So for example, access ID. There's a particular system that they're supposed to have access to. You can actually keep that access ID information here so that it's in their record. So maybe Alan is responsible for a particular solution or a particular company. It's got a particular host name, then the login ID in here, just to kind of start tracking what kind of access people have, what kind of IDs they have. And you can have as many of these access IDs as you want, just a way to kind of keep a particular file going. I guess I would say go ahead and do those. Travel profile, you do have to do for yourself. Nobody's going to do this for you. But it's a way to get that data in there. Once it's in there, other people can use it if they have access to see, maybe what your passport number is, if you actually want to put in your credit card information. I'm not sure a lot of people are going to fill in that kind of information, but it could be useful if you have somebody doing your travel to have this information in here. People can update it for themselves, and then this could be sent over to the travel department so that they know if they're booking travel what to do. So that is the travel profile. Then there's the idea of IT skills. This is just the tracking skills. It's a very exciting attribute, but it could be, right? If you have a set of people on your help desk or a set of people in a particular department who have different kinds of skills, go ahead and start tracking them here, whether it's for operational or whether it's for a product, because that may tell you if you're doing a special project, this person has network skills. I want to go ahead and put that in there so that I know that they, if I have a network project going, they might be one of the ones I want to hit and bring into the project. So it could be a nice way to start tracking those skills as organizations grow, and you're trying to figure out, okay, who can I use for what? Then there's the idea of the education skills. I don't know if you track people's education. Obviously, your HR department does, right? They do it through the recruiting. They keep it tracked. There must be somewhere in the HR form. But maybe you also want it here. Maybe you're doing recruiting specifically for your IT department. You might want to know who went to a particular school because you might want to use them as the recruiting resource to send back to that school. So, or you just want to know what kind of degrees are in the IT department. I know from a vendor perspective, a lot of times in RFPs, customers will ask us for what are the skills or what are the education of the consultants we're using. Well, if we have our consultants' information in here, I don't have to go find it somewhere else, right? I can come in, find those consultants, and say what skills they have or what education they have so that I can answer those RFPs or RFIs. So multiple uses for that information if you decide to use this. HR attendance is, again, more you need to do it for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. There may be a way to set up the permissions. I didn't get that deep into it, but you can set up your attendance, how many education training days you've had. I would probably revamp this form. I left this as the out of the box. I would like a little more space in here. But you can keep adding things, keep looking at your time management types, the different years. Now, some of you are saying, yeah, Anne, I've never looked at this before. And by the way, why is when you stop at 2005? So what we're looking at here, and what we're going to look at a generic catalog, was really put together by a company that BMC ended up acquiring. I bet a lot of you have been on Remedy a long time, so you remember when we went from ITSM 6.0 and we went on to ITSM 7.0. During that time, we bought a company, Viadyne, who had a product called ITSP. And what we did is we took pretty much ITSP's service desk and change and combined it with Remedy's ITSM, asset management, and CMDB. And so a lot of this is coming from that Viadyne ITSP product. Some of you, and I know that's history, and you may not care about the history, but that's why it's ending at 2005. Obviously, you can go in and update that table, add it for more days or for more years if you do want to start tracking these things currently. But that's where some of this stuff is coming from. And that's why you don't hear a lot about it, is because as we moved on, some of that ITSP stuff didn't get emphasized as much as the stuff from the ITSM side. You know, close names there, right? ITSP, that was the one acquired. ITSM, that was a BMC product. Okay, benefit information. Don't know that anybody's going to really create one of these, but you could go ahead and put in some of your information on here. So you can start leveraging the solution to track some of this information. Obviously, I wouldn't put in Social Security number personally, but if you wanted to go ahead and do some of the other things, you could go ahead and do that as well. Keep track of people when they got acquired, maybe some things that are hard to get out of HR. So if you want to manage your IT department and know when you hired people and things, or when their birthday month is, so that you can go ahead and do a party and include all the people with the right birthday month, it's an option. You can keep it in here. It's just a place to keep data. And then finally, there's the wallet. Oops. Let me highlight it first before I hit update. And again, the idea is being able to track some of your credit card information. Again, I'm not sure I would do that in this system, but if you have good access controls, you might even be able to encrypt it and do things like that. That may be something that was worth people doing for themselves. Again, this wallet is one of those that people would do for themselves. So if they wanted to track their own information in the system, they could. Any questions on that particular tab? Okay, I just wanted to go through that. Again, it's a little bit of inheritance from an earlier system, but it may be something some of you can leverage. The other tab I really wanted to hit around here was the CI tab. And hopefully most of you have hit this tab before, but maybe some of you haven't. This is showing the configuration items that Alan is linked to. Remember, I'm in there as Alan, so it's showing him used by, the ones that he owns, the ones that he supports, one that he manages. And this is really useful, right? Maybe people are offboarding, or maybe somebody's calling and you just want to see their assets. This is another way to see them. So of course you can go to the CMDB data, you can pull a report, you can do things like that. But this is a really nice way to get all of the assets that they are attached to very quickly. Bring up their user record, and anything that they are linked to, you're going to see right here. Now, I hit a button when I was prepping for this webinar that I've never hit before, and it's actually pretty cool, because you're like, Anne, well, that's fine, but that's kind of awkward to use. Well, if I go ahead and print, I'm actually going to get a lot of information from the people record. I have 7 pages here. So if I start doing next page, I can see those are all his support groups that Alan's a member of. His roles. Alan's in just about everything. So you can see he's got a lot of different roles out there. These are the permission groups that he's in. And we talked about groups a little bit, very briefly on the last webinar. We talked about going to the user forum and hitting an alphabetical letter to jump down to those. But those are the groups that Alan's in. And then I have the configuration items that he manages, owns, supported by, etc. So if you don't want to deal with the screen, you can always print this report. You can print out this page of the report, and then you can have it as you chat with Alan. Maybe Alan's moving offices. You want to make sure all his access goes with him, or he's changing divisions, and maybe some of these he shouldn't be a member of anymore. So it's a nice way to be able to get that information. So remember that print button, because that's a great way to get your people information out of the forum and into a different type of, into a report, so you can use it and carry it about and not always have to be logged in. I'm just going to check the Q&A window. There probably aren't any questions so far, but if you do have any, you can put them in through the Q&A window, and we'll try and get to them. Nothing so far. Okay. So that's some of the things I wanted to point out on the people form. Not a lot of things, but that attributes tab, the CIs, and then of course the printing. The other tabs you may or may not use. You can absolutely start tracking some financials, what cost center they're in, things like that. I know I've had customers lately who are talking about doing some charging out to external customers. So the hourly rate may become important because if Alan works on their ticket for half an hour, I'm going to need his hourly rate, or at least the hourly rate I'm going to charge the customer for him. So I may want to go ahead and do that and use that in reporting. So the financials tab might be one you want to also leverage. Okay, next. Generic catalog. This is another holdover from ITSP. And in my opinion, there's one main reason to use it. I get to the generic catalog. I'm going down to my foundation data, products and operational catalog, and generic catalog. I come over and I get into my generic catalog. And this is for some drop-downs that aren't done elsewhere. And the main drop-down I like to talk about here is actually the reason drop-down. If I search on my reason, I can see these particular things: application error, application performance, configuration error, data change, etc. So I can build reasons here, and this is really about why did the ticket happen? What caused it? You're not going to see a cause field if you're using best practice screens or you're using Smart IT, but if you went into the classic view of incident, and we'll talk about the classic view in a second, but if I'm in this view of my incident record, I'm on my resolution screen, there is a cause field here. The field is still in the database. You can absolutely put it on the best practice view. You absolutely can pull it into Smart IT. If you want to start tracking as you resolve things, maybe you don't just want the resolution product categorization, but you want to know maybe the underlying cause. Is it user training? Maybe if it's a new user, maybe we have to update our new user training so that they know how to do these things instead of having to go to the help desk. If it's I'm getting a lot of network outages, I'm certainly going to want to talk to my network department about that. So it's just a way to group together tickets by what caused the ticket to come in. And you configure this drop-down again in that generic catalog. For those of you that haven't used Remedy since 7.x, this was a 7.0 incident form, 7.0, 7.1 incident form. And that's why I call it the classic form. If you ever want to look at it, it's HPD : help desk classic. So HPD : help desk classic. In this case, I hacked the URL again, typed that in, and I was able to get to it. But this was what we did in 7.0, 7.1 as the incident form before we had the best practice views. As part of moving to the best practice views, which happened in 7.6-ish, maybe 7.5 for incident, we moved a lot of the fields off the form, fields that we thought were not as useful to our customers. Customers didn't always agree. So rather than, if you really want a reason field or a cause field, rather than recreating it, adding it to the database and then bringing it in, just know it's already out there. You can see there's also a resolution method. I don't know if I like that one as much. I did like the cause field. We pulled it off the best practice views. There actually is a white paper from those days that talks about why things are moved out of the best practice view. If any of you are interested in that, you can go ahead and email me, Anne.Brock, ANNE.Brock, at RightStar.com. I'd be happy to send you a copy of that. But that's kind of the idea. So, like I said, there are other things you can do in the generic catalog. I personally, they're kind of controlling some of those things we saw on the people form. SLA breach is obviously no longer controlled from here. These are just a way to do some drop-downs through data-driven methods. The one I really like, though, is reason. And that would be if you decide to move that cause field onto your best practice or Smart IT views, and then you could start having those reasons. Any questions on that generic catalog? Again, that came from ITSP, so a little bit of a holdover from that. I do think that reason field may be something that some of my customers can use. Okay. Not seeing any questions. I promise you not to go too long today. The after-hours support form. Some of you probably have seen this. You've been working in your application administration. You've gone to your organizational structures. You've gone to support groups. And you've seen that you have this little box over on the right. And one of the things is on-call. I'm going to go ahead and scroll to a group that actually has some things in it. Go to the service desk. And look at my on-call schedule. the idea behind here, and again, the reason I wanted to bring it up today is I was working with a couple of customers who were perceiving it differently from what it's meant to be. What this is meant to be, it's going to say, you have all your normal notifications, right? An incident comes in, incident gets assigned, somebody gets notified, either a queue or a person. All those are happening. SLAs are going on, those kinds of things can happen. But this is an extra notification. So I have that I'm going to do an individual notification, a page. I'm going to do it to Alan. And I'm going to do it when my incident managed priority is greater than or equal to high. So if a ticket comes into the queue that's high or critical, Alan's going to get a notification in addition to the person who is assigned it. But he's only going to get a notification between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's when he's on call. So anything critical or high that comes in between 9 and 5 is going to go to Alan so that he knows about it, as well as all the other normal notifications that are happening. You might wonder what happens after 5. Well, now I have something go into Mary. I probably should have done 5:01 p.m. I got a little overlap here. But between 5 and up until midnight, Mary's going to go ahead and get it. I could have done more of these for the 12 a.m. through 9 a.m. I just didn't bother doing that. But the idea is for a particular kind of ticket, in this case I said high and critical, I want to get an extra notification out there. Out of the box, this is set up for paging. So it will page individuals based upon these settings. You see we've got it for incident and for change management in terms of risk, but really incidents, what everybody's going to use it for. Out of the box, it's set up for paging. RightStar has done for customers a little widget, a little set of coding to modify from paging to texting to an email to a cell phone. So if you want to use this and you want to get a text to your cell phone, RightStar does have something that can do that. We have that. We've done that for customers before. Be happy to do it for you as well. But just wanted to mention, or you can figure out the workflow yourself. I'm sure some of you are good enough to go in and do that. But RightStar has done it before, and we do have that available. So you can contact us if you want us to set your system up to do this on-call notification to a cell phone. Again, may or may not be useful to you because, again, this is an additional notification. I probably would never do it during the day. I'd probably only save it for after hours because during the day, the person who's assigned the ticket should get it and should be working it. But sometimes maybe you want somebody to get it during the day as well. So kind of useful, might be a nice feature to have. And now the little bonus thing I'm going to give you, and I'm hoping all of you know this, but I wanted to talk a little bit about BMC Docs, docs.bmc.com. We all come to docs.bmc.com and we see these boxes, and I know I can go into Remedy IT Service Management, click on 9.1, and get to the stuff I want to get to. But if you're diving down, if you want more of how to use incident management, come down to this Find Online Documentation and start typing in, for example, Service Desk. And I'm going to get to Service Desk 9.1, and this is different documentation than what's in ITSM 9.1. This is really specific to Service Desk. Of course, there's overlap. There's some documentation in both places, but if you're talking about really using the Service Desk and how to work through it, some other things as well, this is a place where you can come to get some documentation. So if you're looking for something, you can't find it in the ITSM type documentation, come down to that search box, forget the tiles, come down to the search box and type it in here. I got the same thing for change management. I can go ahead and get change management 9.1 and get very specific on it as well. So sometimes use that search box. Again, for my IT and Smart IT, I use the search boxes. If I'm talking about Remedy on Demand, there's a nice Remedy on Demand subscriber page out there. So that's another thing you can do out here. So along with clicking on the tiles, you may want to go ahead and come in here and try that search box as well. That was a little extra we didn't have on our agenda initially that I did want to kind of point out to you in case you hadn't found that yet. Okay, my last slide. This is what we're going to be doing next week. We're going to look at some of our application rules, and then in a totally different switch, well, application rules apply, we're going to talk about change task phasing. I don't know if you have experienced this before. There are ways to phase your tasks within change so they get done earlier than implementation phase. I'm going to talk a little bit about bulk inventory and a couple tips on web reporting that may or may not be useful for you all. I think they're useful. So come show up next week. We're going to walk through these, and hopefully, again, we can shed some light in an area you may not have known was even there or answered a couple questions. If you have any ideas for future webinars, by the way, also email those to us because we love doing these and love sharing information. And that's it for today. I did go the full 20 minutes. I didn't think I was going to.